loves my baby, but my baby don't love nobody but me. Nobody but me. Yeah, everybody wants my
Welcome
baby.
back, everyone, to I'm No Genius. As always, I'm Eli. I'm joined today by Grant and Drew. This is a very special episode of I'm No Genius. Today, we are going to be giving our review of the entirety of Game of Thrones. I've been trying to figure out what we're going to call this series of ours that we're going to do if we just keep on reviewing shows and movies and stuff.
Mhm.
What do you guys think of the incompetent critic? Because that's pretty much what we are.
Perfect.
I
Like
think
it.
it's perfect. I like that a lot.
See, I'm
So I
I'm on
mean,
I'm on fire with these names, dude.
yes, sir.
But
Spoiler alerts ahead if you are
yes,
currently watching it.
yeah. If you're
So
if you're
we'll have
if
to
you're
hold back.
if you're watching it right now, do not listen to this. Watch the rest of the show and then listen to this afterwards. But before we jump in, Grant thinks he is Moon Knight, and I want to know why.
Yeah, so something really weird happened last night. I don't sleepwalk typically, but I've been told that I do sleep talk occasionally, or I'll just like mumble some stuff. But so last night we all go to bed. I mean, pretty early. We were all asleep by like 12, except for Jarrett. Jarrett was up a little bit later. He was just playing MLB The Show. So I go to bed. I wake up at 7, and I look to my right and I see Drew, which shouldn't happen because Drew's in the other room. So I somehow managed to get into Jarrett's bed. So I wake up, I'm in Jarrett's bed. So I walk over to my bed, and Jarrett's just laying there. And I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, oh, you don't remember? You came in at like 3:30 and you just laid down. I was like, what do you mean? So apparently I last night I slept walk around like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I just walked over and laid down in Jarrett's bed. And instead of waking me up, Jarrett just decided just to go lay in my bed, which we were like talking about. We were like, why didn't you just but
I mean,
yeah,
you know what they say. Like, if you ever encounter a sleepwalker, it's best to not try to wake him up.
don't wake them up. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty polite. I mean, kudos to Jarrett. Like, I mean, just
Yeah.
just not waking you up, dude. But
I just walked over at 7. I tapped on him. I'm like, what's happening? He was like, you don't remember? I was like, obviously. So then I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if I've ever done this before, but I don't think I have. I think that was like the first time I've actually slept walk, but it was just really
jeez.
weird how I just went and lay down in his bed.
Well,
Yeah.
Grant, worst case scenario, you just had a rough night, or no, worst case scenario, you just had a rough night. Best case scenario, you have an alter ego, and you're a superhero.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
either
If you haven't
way,
watched that show, that's also another great show, but
yeah,
um
I'm sure.
I
I'm
don't,
sure
we'll,
we'll.
we'll see if it happens again.
I'm sure we'll do an episode of Moon Knight later on down the road. But
Yep.
now back to the task at hand, guys. We're all huge fans of Game of Thrones. We're well versed in the lore of Westeros. Um, what I'm thinking, we just go through. I'm going to give a quick summary of each season, and then we talk about how we feel about it afterwards.
Mhm.
So,
Sounds
uh,
good.
without any further ado, welcome everyone to the first episode of The Incompetent Critic, presented by I'm No Genius, and let's get right into season 1 of Game of Thrones. So, in the land of Westeros, we're introduced to all of our main characters: the Starks, the Lannisters, the Clegane brothers, Varys, Night's Watch, and the Baratheons. White Walkers in the first scene, really cool, way to start the show, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the show starts. John Arryn, who's the Hand of the King, he dies unexpectedly, and Robert Baratheon, who's the king, asks his old friend from the war, Ned Stark, to take his position. Jaime Lannister tries to kill Bran Stark after he catches him and Cersei doing the deed. So not the best way to, start off his reputation. Ned, Arya, and Sansa, they all go to King's Landing. Jon Snow goes to the Night's Watch. Catelyn Stark tries to discover the truth. With the help of Littlefinger, Ned Stark tries to find out why Jon Arryn died. Tyrion Lannister is captured by Lysa Tully, but is released by Bronn after he defends him in a trial by combat. And look, I know you guys, I don't know how you guys feel about Bronn, but me and Colin, we absolutely love him. I would love your thoughts on him right now. Just like interrupt me.
Oh, I love Braun.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite characters.
I mean,
I-
go ahead, Drew.
No, I just that's the thing is there's so many characters. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it later and talk about it more, but the characters that there's main characters that when you go from one scene to another, or you're like, obviously you have like Daenerys and you have like Ned and you have all these and the Starks, and it's like the people that it's based around, but the side characters that it doesn't even like you never see Braun by himself really without any other main characters, but he's
Right.
still such an interesting and really great character that you always want to see, even though he's just technically a side character, I guess you would call him. But
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the mark of a good show, especially in Game of Thrones. Like all these side characters could be main characters in like their own shows.
yeah,
That's how interesting they are. By the way, guys, I don't mean to interrupt myself, but I bought this today. It's a Game of Thrones poster. This guy, oh, it's upside down. This guy was selling these posters for like $15 outside of the Ohio
Oh, that's
Union.
sweet.
Yeah, got Fire and Blood, King in the North, The Red Wedding. We're gonna.
So
cool.
cool.
I mean, like for those of you who are listening right now, you probably don't know what we're talking about yet, but don't worry, we're gonna address everything. Yeah, where was I? So Tyrion Lannister, Bronn defends him. Robert Baratheon dies after being stabbed by the boar, and eventually we find out that it was a setup. It was planned. Ned Stark discovers that the Lannisters killed Jon Arryn, and he also knows that Cersei and Jaime, bop bop, and then he is killed shortly after. Sadly, I really liked Ned. Arya flees the capital. Robb Stark declares war on the new king, Joffrey Baratheon. Armies of the North capture Jaime Lannister. And while all of this is happening in the land of Essos, we meet Daenerys Targaryen, Jorah Mormont, Khal Drogo, and Viserys Targaryen. Dany is married to Khal Drogo so that Viserys will gain soldiers. Khal Drogo kills Viserys after he threatens the life of Dany and their unborn child together. And Khal Drogo is killed in combat, and Daenerys loses their unborn child, sadly. And at the end of the season, Daenerys' 3 dragon eggs finally hatch. Guys, I absolutely love season 1. It's like my second favorite season, I think. Like it's beautiful. Your thoughts?
you go first, Grant.
I spent the first half of season 1 just trying to learn everyone's name because there are so many different stories going on at the same time that it's so hard to like.
Yeah.
The first half of it was, I mean, I might have to rewatch it, but it did a great job just kind of like setting everything in motion. And then once it got towards the end of the first season, like all the stories really started to pick up, and it like did a great job.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with that. Whatever.
Yeah. Drew, what's up?
I think that's the thing is my first time watching it through, and I definitely recommend to anybody that's seen it once to watch it again, just because it is crazy. It's the best setup, I think, to any show ever, just because it seems like every single sentence was like foreshadowing for everything else that happened in the show. It was like nothing was left. Like, I mean, you can name so many things, like obviously Ned talking about his sister and talking to Jon about what the future of that was going to be.
Yeah.
You have Arya, who obviously is talking about being like she wants to be a warrior, she wants to be a warrior, she wants to be a warrior, and everyone keeps shooting her down or whatever. And then obviously later what she develops into. Like all the characters show what they are going to be essentially without you really knowing it when you're watching it the first time. And then I think Ned dying is such a great setup later too, because it's like what Cersei says to him, like in Game of Thrones, you either die or you win.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like there's no honor. It's just a free for all basically. And Ned didn't understand that. And in the first season, you don't really understand that. And then once you see it happen and all that, it gets launched into it, and it actually starts. I don't know. I think there's enough action to where it's still fun to watch, but it's slower than the rest of the seasons. But
Yeah.
I think it's a near perfect season. And it's probably my third favorite season. But
Okay.
Definitely one of the craziest last episodes of any season, I guess, besides probably season 4, probably top that. But
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like the whole first season was centered around Ned Stark.
Yeah.
And then like you're expecting this guy to be in the show for a really long time, and then he's not.
Right.
So
I mean, they get Sean Bean, who is probably the most well-known actor before the show took place out of everyone. I mean, they get him to play the main character, and it could have at surface value, it could have been seen as like, oh my gosh, they just killed off the main character just to shock fans or whatever. But no, I mean, Ned Stark was not long for this world. He was quite literally too good for this world. So he had to be killed.
they
And
had to do that, set everything else in motion.
yeah, and the thing is, if he would have lived, he would have solved all the problems before they even came about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he had to go, or else we wouldn't have a show.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
spitting rhymes over here. But all in all, season 1 is so precious to me. I think it's the perfect setup to this amazing show. And after I watched it, I watched all of season 1 within like 2 days because it was like it was just moving quite along. I loved it, and I was so ready for season 2 when it came out. So
I don't understand how Cam can watch one episode of that season and then not watch anymore for like 2 months. I don't know. That makes no sense to me.
Grant, we are not the same as him, dude. We're not the same. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't get it, But his loss, really, he's missing out.
Yeah.
All right, that was season 1. Easy peasy. Let's move on to season 2. All right, we're back to the land of Westeros. We meet key characters this season: Stannis, Melisandre, Davos, the Greyjoys, the Wildlings, and the Tyrells. Love those Tyrells. The War of the Five Kings has begun. Tyrion becomes the acting Hand of the King in place of his father. Theon returns to the Iron Islands, but betrays the Starks and joins his family in battle against them. Catelyn attempts to form an alliance with Renly Baratheon and the Tyrells, but that doesn't go very well. We'll cover that later. The Night's Watch goes north of the Wall, and Jon gets stranded by himself. Theon, with the help of the Ironborn, takes Winterfell, but Bran and Rickon Stark, they both escape. Tyrion sends Princess Marcella to Dorne against Cersei's wishes. Catelyn and Brienne of Tarth witness the death of Renly caused by a spell casted by Melisandre and Stannis. And
That spell, that's a kind word for what that was.
yeah, I mean, like, look, don't get me wrong, Game of Thrones is full of like weird stuff, but Melisandre is definitely the weirdest character on this show.
Yeah.
Like, she shows up half the time, she's not wearing clothes half the time, and she's casting spells.
Yeah.
In reality, she's actually
legs.
like 130 years old too.
Yeah, she wears like a stone around her neck to keep her young.
Yeah.
And then, it's just, she's weird. She's a weird character, but, fans love her. I wonder why.
I was before you go on with that, I just wanted to say something random about her. So if you pay attention, you remember at the very beginning when she drinks the poison, or when she's like, it's when you first kind of see her because one of those followers was like trying to poison her,
Right.
and she knows it, and she drinks it. As she's drinking it, her necklace is like glowing.
Oh, really?
But that's not at that point in the show. You would have no idea,
Yeah.
know to look for it. But I noticed that when I was watching with Grant the second time.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, so
That's
but
a cool.
I noticed that when I was watching it, but obviously didn't want to spoil it for Grant. But it's
Right.
just another instance of them foreshadowing.
I mean, yeah, like the one thing they do really well in the earlier seasons is they kill it in terms of foreshadowing. They're like, especially in season 2, I feel like a lot of stuff like happens then that we don't know it's going to be important later on. But oh my gosh, who is that in the background? Is that Garrett?
It's Garrett.
What's up, Garrett?
What's up? How are you?
We're doing good, man. We're just
Good.
filming a show, man.
Filming the show.
Yeah,
How long you guys in? About 15 minutes?
yeah, about 15 minutes in. Yeah.
Big crowd today, huh?
Big crowd.
Well, I mean, Grant's got the entire Northern Army right there.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Garrett's seen like the last 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. He could do this with us once we get to like 7 and 8.
Yeah, dude. Hey, don't worry. We will talk about 7 and 8.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
I'll try my best to
Yeah.
an opinion or whatever you guys need.
He doesn't know a lot of names, but
Yeah. Well, just we'll do your best.
War.
Right.
A big war.
Yeah, exactly.
And the ladies in there.
Yeah, big time. All right, so where was I? Okay, Arya travels north with Gendry to get back to Winterfell. John falls in love with Ygritte. She's a wildling, and be honest,
Season 2?
yeah, that's season 2, man.
Wow.
I know it's
I
crazy
thought
how
that was it. That's crazy. Yeah.
it's crazy how fast this show goes in retrospect. And to be honest, John and Ygritte, I like them more than John and Dany.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they were, and in real life, they actually got married. Those two actors,
Mhm.
Kit Harington,
They have some
and
kids. Yeah.
they make babies together. It was great. Like, moving on, Catelyn releases Jaime Lannister and tasks Brienne to exchange him for Sansa and Arya. Tyrion leads Joffrey's army in the Battle of Blackwater against Stannis. The arrival of Tywin Lannister, allied with the Tyrells, forces Stannis to retreat. And I want to talk really quick about the speech that Tyrion gives at Blackwater.
Oh, okay.
You got. I mean, I know everyone loves the speech in season 4 when he's on trial and everything, but
Mhm.
dude, I get so hyped when Tyrion says, "Those are brave men knocking at our door. Let's go kill them." Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a good line. Like, I mean, I love this episode so
A lot
much.
of great moments in that episode.
I mean, yeah, like Tyrion, like, signaling Bronn to shoot the arrow with wildfire and everything.
Mhm.
It's just such a good episode. I love season 2. Season 2 is almost as good as season 1, in my opinion.
Very good.
Yeah, very, very good. Where was Theon gets betrayed by his own men, and Winterfell is burned. Which, when I watched it for the first time, I was thinking, like, are we going to watch another battle, like an episode later, like another big battle, and then Theon just gets clubbed over the head by one of his guys, and then they just leave him there.
Yeah.
So, not the best situation for Theon, but it is what it is. And then to end the plot line in Westeros, north of the Wall, Sam encounters an army of White Walkers. So, not a great situation for him. And while all of this is happening, you guys are going to notice a pattern whenever I talk about the early seasons with Dany and her crew, because I found all of her scenes incredibly boring. Like, I mean, they go from one city to the other city to the other city, and then it's the same thing. They just take over another city one at a time. And
Slowly keeps getting more and more powerful.
yeah,
The end of every season, it's like they do like a slow pan out of like her situation basically, and it's always more and more extravagant every season.
Mhm.
right. Well, in this season, Dany and the gang, they're looking for refuge after the Dothraki leave them to die. They find refuge in the kingdom of Karth. Some stuff goes down, and Dany's dragons get taken for a hot second. She gets her dragons back after going on like a vision quest. And this is where she actually sees like a vision of the Iron Throne, what she thinks is covered in snowfall, but now that we know, because of season 8, it's covered in ash. So that's some good foreshadowing right there. And her group loots the castle and takes all the valuables, and then they head out. So that's pretty much all that goes on in season 2 with Daenerys and her group.
Yeah.
I mean, season 2, I thought it was pretty good. It's got some good Tyrion moments. Tyrion being his maniacal self and everything. I know, Grant, I know you kind of disagree with me on this one, but I like Stannis quite a bit.
I don't dislike him. I think he's kind of boring.
I mean,
Yeah.
like,
In a show with so many great, interesting characters, I feel like Stannis just misses the mark a little bit more. And as far as like, he just doesn't have like a lot going on compared to some other people, I guess. I mean, there is a lot going on, and it's not like his scenes are boring. I just feel like compared to some other characters, he's just a bit lackluster. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I mean, for what it's worth, like, out of all of the five kings in the War of the Five Kings, I think besides Rob, he's the one I would want to win the most. Just because, like, look at his competition. I mean, he's going up against Joffrey. Nobody wants him to win. People want him to die. Like,
Yeah. Nobody likes Joffrey.
yeah, nobody liked Joffrey, and believe me, we are going to talk some crap about Joffrey later.
Yeah.
I mean, in this season, he's holding a crossbow on Sansa because Rob is making him mad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, you're such a piece of crap. Like, grow up. And then in the Battle of Blackwater, he doesn't even do anything. He just hides.
Yeah.
Inbred.
Yeah, you said it. You said it, bro. No, that's not even a joke. He is. Like, he's just straight up. Like, but like one of my favorite things from the Battle of Blackwater is when the Hound, like, they come back inside the walls and everything, and then the Hound just looks at Joffrey and he's just like, "F the king, I'm out of here." Like essentially, he's just like, "I'm not fighting for you anymore." So that's a good moment from the Hound.
And then he offers to save Sansa, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget about that because they talk about that later when they're in season 8. I'm fairly certain that's when it was. He talks to her about it. He's like, "It's probably a good thing you didn't come with me or whatever." But yeah.
Yeah, what could have been? I mean, obviously we know from like season 4 that the Hound could be a pretty good guardian. I mean, with him and Arya, so you know he's a sweetheart. He's got a heart of gold.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving right along. Let's get into season 3, and this is where some major stuff goes down in terms of characters departing from life. So let's get right into it. Key characters this season: the Boltons and Jojen Reed. I mean, if you want to call them key characters. Sam escapes the White Walkers and gets back to the Wall. Jon meets the King of the Wildlings, so they call him the true King in the North. Theon is rescued by everyone's favorite butthole, Ramsay Bolton, and he just you know, he does a number on Theon throughout the next 3 seasons. Like, I mean, when I was watching it, dude, I felt like, I mean, Theon, like, he presents himself like an arrogant little piece of crap at the beginning, but Ramsay made me feel bad for Theon. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad.
I think Theon's character, it's the thing is in the beginning, I guess you don't see it as much or right away, but he's like someone that struggles with who he thinks he is. Like he doesn't know if he's a Greyjoy or a Stark, and he's just kind of, no one on either side really claims him either. He's just kind of there. So I think that's kind of why he's always been bitter and has to act like he was like arrogant because he wanted people to think he was highborn and this, like, everyone loved him, but he wasn't really accepted by anybody. And then before we even saw him develop, he just gets captured and tortured literally to the brink of like, I mean, the things he's went through, I don't know if anybody would be able to survive that. And
yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that he went through on the show, we probably won't disclose on this show, because we do have some respect for our younger audiences, and we just like, you know, hey, when you turn 18, watch the show and see for yourself. It's rough, dude. But let's keep moving. Littlefinger is sent to the Eyrie to marry Liza Tully.
Jared's
That's
Jared?
Jared's favorite character.
Oh yeah.
don't know why or how, but
But yeah, I don't understand that.
Littlefinger. I mean, Littlefinger, he's such a schemer. Like,
yeah, literally.
yeah, literally, yeah. Brienne and Jaime, they're captured by the Boltons. Tywin orders Tyrion to marry Sansa and Cersei to marry Sir Loras to gain power. Robb allies with the Freys, but the alliance is strained after Robb marries the Nurse Lady.
But she was so hot though.
Yeah, you know, look,
Good one.
Drew, that's a really good point. But if I'm being honest, when I was making my notes for this, I completely forgot her name, and I only remembered her as the Nurse Lady.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep calling her the Nurse Lady.
That's
Drew,
You remember,
we all know
you
who we're
remember what her
talking
name
about.
was? You remember what her name? Because I don't.
Give me
I like
if
just
he
watched
continues
it.
to talk about it, I'll probably remember. But
Okay.
Okay. Well, he marries the nurse lady, and Walder Frey is not happy about that. Jamie loses his sword hand and tells Brienne the real reason he killed the former king Aerys Targaryen, and he does this in the baths when they're in the well, that sounds wrong, but when they're in the baths together, and he's talking about how the Mad King was going to kill everyone, and he stopped them, but he wasn't. He didn't tell anyone that he was actually being a noble person when doing it. I thought that was a really good scene. But
Very good scene.
yeah,
Talisa, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Talisa.
I don't know how often that was mentioned or like said.
I mean, she barely got any lines, and she was only in the story to just screw everything up.
Mess everything
And
up.
be
Yeah.
very attractive as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like,
I mean, I guess for it to be believable, it would have to be that way.
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, if Rob was going to sell out his army for a woman, you got to make it believable. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Okay. Arya and Gendry, they're taken to the Brotherhood without banners. These are the weird people that worship the Lord of Light, and like the guy keeps getting killed, but he's coming back to life and everything.
Well, I mean, that whole thing, I mean, that's the thing is Melisandre and all these people that worship the Lord of Light, we'll get more into it later, but there is validity to like the Lord of Light. Like you see it throughout the show, like that has to exist. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's like, I mean, like, it's just like performed like in front of them. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of hard to deny it. So,
Yeah.
okay. The Brotherhood gives Gendry to Melisandre for a sacrifice because I guess they need to sacrifice a Baratheon for Stannis to win. But Gendry is freed by Sir Davos, and Sir Davos is another one of my most favorite characters in the show. He's such a sweetheart. I love him. Let's see. The Hound decides to escort Arya back to Robb in the north. Bran and Rickon get separated, and Jojen and Bran head for the Wall. At the wedding, here it is. Here it is. This is the moment that everyone dreaded, who have seen the show before, and nobody expected, who had never seen the show before. This is the Red Wedding, and let me give you a quick summary before we dive right into it. This is the wedding of Edmure Tully and Rosalind Frey, and Robb, Catelyn, and the entire Stark army were betrayed and killed by the Freys and the Boltons, and it is pretty gruesome. Robb's unborn child, who they were gonna name Eddard Stark, is also killed, and that is a literal and metaphorical stab to the gut.
It killed first, by the way, before anybody. I'm pretty sure that was the first casualty.
Yeah. I mean, that's rough, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, what were you guys feeling when that scene went on?
I was just in shock, and I think everyone who's seen the show came over to watch that episode in particular, and I didn't really like understand the reason why, because you don't really like suspect anything crazy is going to happen. It just kind of seems like everything's just going smoothly at that point in the show, and they're about to just have a wedding, and then that all happened, and I was just in shock the entire time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching it last year. I flew through the show, so I'd probably already watched 9 episodes that day. I probably watched that whole season in that day. But I was sitting at my desk, and as soon as like you see, they cut to Bolton's arm, like, and he's wearing armor, and Catelyn like realizes right before like it happens, like, oh, like this isn't right or whatever. And like for me, I'm like, what would that mean? And then when they stab her in the stomach or whatever, I just like paused it, and I just like sat there and was like confused. I was like, what? And then like I pushed play, and then I would pause it 5 seconds later. I'm like, what? There's no way they're actually doing this. And I was like, a lot of your favorite characters, like Robb and Catelyn, and like just people that again
Nurse Lady
to be a big part of the show moving forward, and they're just gone. So you're like, oh,
right.
well, bummer.
I was just gonna say, at that point of the show, Robb was easily one of my favorite characters, and
I mean, like it's sad because the only thing that really killed Rob was love. You
Yeah.
know, it's just. I mean, it's shot through the heart. You're to blame. You give love a bad name. I mean, I don't know what else to say, man. Like that's just Bon Jovi said it best. But yeah, I do remember watching that, and it was like such like a slow. It was like everything up to that point was like moving so fast, and then like they start locking the doors, and then they start like getting men up on the balconies in position,
Mhm.
and it's just like silent, and Catelyn's just like looking around, like, wait, there's something going on here, and I was like, because I knew, like, I mean, I had already seen like spoiler videos on YouTube about it and everything, so I knew it was coming, but I didn't know like how well it was going to be built up. Like it was so impressive. Like I was, knew it was coming, but I was still on the edge of my seat. So that was a devastating episode to everyone who loved Rob. So and
And
Catelyn.
worst of it all, Arya came all that way. Like she was traveling with the Hound that long, and she finally gets there, and they all died.
Yeah, and like that just goes like that's just another example of like this show just prolonging like character reunions and everything. Like
Yeah.
our characters are all reunited, are all together in season 1, and then they get separated, and then they don't come back together until season 8, and half of them are dead. So sorry for spoilers. I mean, we already prefaced that, but uh yeah, so the Stark army is dead. Rob's dead, Catelyn's dead. Jon escapes. Jon, who's north of the wall, he escapes from the wildlings, and the wildlings decide to head for the wall to invade south. And Brienne returns Jaime to King's Landing. And while this is going on in the land of Essos, we're introduced to Missandei, Unsullied, and Dario Naharis. Dany arrives in Astapor, convinces the army of Unsullied to fight for her, and she does this in a really cool way. I actually like this moment from Daenerys. She speaks Valerian and everything, and then her dragon just burns like for like the first time. She like burns a human alive,
Yeah.
and I know that sounds like really morbid, but I absolutely love that scene. And I was just
Yeah. I mean, if
Cool
the
scene.
viewers knew, or if they've seen the show, which I assume they have if they're watching this far, we all are okay with that guy getting burned alive. He was a piece of crap. So
he was not a good person. He was
No.
he was calling her vulgar names, and we don't and we here we're men of principle. We're not about that misogynistic lifestyle. Okay, like like that's why we watch Game of Thrones for the respecting of women.
course.
Yeah, let's keep moving. Missandei joins Dany's crew. Dany declares war on the slave city of Yunkai. Dany hires the Second Sons, led by Dario Naharis, to aid her in battle, and the slaves of the city turn on their masters and they are released. End of the season. Uh, Thoughts on Dario Naharis? He's played by 2 actors,
Yeah.
and I want your guys' thoughts on him as a character.
I mean,
Yeah. Go ahead, Grant.
I was just gonna say I watched it pretty quick, so for me, like they told me ahead of time, they're like, this character, this is like the last time he's in the show. He'll be in for a few more seasons, but they just change him for another guy. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I definitely feel like it would be weird if you had to wait a very long time for the next season to come out, and then it's just a completely different character.
Yeah, I mean, like, the guy that originally played, nice change of background, Grant. I love it. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I mean, the guy that originally played Dario Naharis, he had to leave because he ended up playing the villain in Deadpool. So, I mean,
Oh, that was. Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that was the same guy. That's crazy.
that was him, dude. And I think it was close to an even trade. I mean, he probably could have made more money doing Game of Thrones, but he was in Deadpool. Deadpool's great. I love Deadpool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't even realize that was the same guy.
And the thing that got me tripped up, and I was talking to Colin about it. I wish Colin was here to talk about this with us. I know he
Right.
loves Game of Thrones, but
he's with us in spirit.
yes, he is. Because we already have the first instance of, I forget his name, but the head of the House of Black and White, Barlar.
Jack.
or Morghulis or whatever. This is what he says.
Oh, yeah.
Because he helps Arya escape. Does that already happen? Right?
Yeah,
Is that
that happens this. I think it's this season, season
Yeah.
3. It happened this season.
Gotcha. So, okay. So maybe that has, or it's around that time because I'm pretty sure I knew at that time that there was somebody in the show that had the ability to change their face.
Yeah,
And I was like telling Colin, I was like, so is he one of those guys? And Colin's like, nah, actually, they just switched his actor. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been a really cool twist. I mean, like,
Yeah.
especially since like around season 5 they stopped adapting like from the source material and everything. That
Yeah.
would have been a cool thing to add, I think. But yeah, I mean, sadly, Dario Naharis was not a faceless man.
Yeah.
I mean, that now that you mention it, I would have really loved to see that. But for what it's worth, I mean, I liked the second actor that played
Yeah.
Dario. He made him seem more likable, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he had more screen time, so I don't think it's fair. But you know,
Never got a chance.
never got a chance. Exactly. All right. Now, gentlemen, we have reached season 4, which is my favorite season of Game of Thrones, and I'm sure at least one of you feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think for me, it is probably 3.
You like
I just
3?
have to remember what
No,
all
like
happened.
3 is my third favorite season. Season 4 is.
Okay. Well, I mean, as long as it's top 3, that's good
Yeah.
enough for me. I love it.
Top 3.
All right.
Yeah, definitely top 2.
All right. In this season, a lot of stuff goes down. We're introduced to Dorne and Oberyn Martell, played by the incomparable Pedro Pascal. What an actor! What a character! I can't wait to see what happens with him. Here we go. Jon rejoins the Night's Watch at the Wall, and they prepare for the Wildling invasion. And this is like my favorite part of the season. At the wedding of Joffrey and Marjorie Tyrell, Joffrey is poisoned, and he dies.
Let's go.
I know, right? Like
Everyone likes that.
yeah, everyone. No, like Game of Thrones is such a divisive show, but literally everyone loved when this happened.
Yeah.
Nobody liked Joffrey. I mean, it's sad that people actually hate the actor who played Joffrey because he did a good job. Like, he just made us hate him. You can't ask for more.
He can never have a bowl cut again. The actor can never wear that hair. Otherwise, it'll be someone might actually commit a crime on him in real life.
He's got to like do something like to his style. He's got to like transform he's got to like grow a beard, get a new haircut, because he can't look like Joffrey and not get picked on for the rest of his life. Like, and it's sad, but hey, we love you, man. You did a great job. Yeah, he was poisoned in a plot by the Tyrells and Littlefinger. Got a Littlefinger. He's scheming again. But Tyrion is accused of the murder and is thrown in prison. But Sansa escapes because of Littlefinger. So that's pretty interesting. After learning of Rob's death, the Hound begins to escort Arya to her aunt Lysa Tully in the Vale. Tywin prepares Tommen to be the new king. Jaime tasks Brienne with finding Sansa and Arya and getting them somewhere safe. The Boltons take control over Winterfell, and Ramsay continues to torment Theon throughout the season. Stannis and Davos convince the Iron Bank to give them funds for a new army. Tyrion goes on trial and demands a trial by combat after his lover, Shae, lies and betrays him in front of the court. I mean, up to this moment, Shae was a good character. I liked her. She was nice, but she did Tyrion dirty. Yeah, I mean,
all girls are the same.
Well, that's not on record, but like, I mean, hey, dude, you can't trust them. Like, you can't trust them. You gotta get rid of them. Which Tyrion eventually does, by the way. But Littlefinger meets Sansa and takes her to the Eyrie. Oberyn Martell elects himself to defend Tyrion because he wants to kill the Mountain. Bran and Jojen meet the Three-Eyed Raven. Oberyn Martell is killed by the Mountain, sadly, after showboating. And,
almost at it.
He won in battle. He lost the actual fight, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, like technically Oberyn did kill the mountain. They just played some zombie trickery on him, so the mountain came back to life, and it's just like
Mickey Mouse.
exactly, it's a Mickey Mouse victory, and I'm not for it. Like, so I mean, the mountain technically wins by default. Well, not by default. I mean, he literally like concaved Oberyn's head, but
Yeah.
Oberyn did die first.
he did die first, but he gave a valiant effort, and we should commend him for that. He was not long for this world, but he was such a good character.
Yeah.
Okay. John and the Night's Watch defend the wall from the wildlings, and Ygritte is killed by that little piece of crap, Ollie. I mean,
Ollie.
Ollie.
yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Ollie. His family died and everything. He hates the wildlings, but Ygritte had nothing to do with that, dude. You just gotta chill. You can't go shooting arrows at people for no reason. You know, it's just, man, it's just such a waste.
Sad scene.
Sad scene. Sad scene. Jaime Lannister sets Tyrion free, and Tyrion kills Tywin and Shay, who were having an affair with each other. Now, I did not see that coming. I did not know that was.
I think anyone did.
I did not know that was a thing. I mean, I guess Tywin still got it in his old age. Like, I mean, like that is just ridiculous.
He's got that money.
He's got that, yeah, hand of the king. He's made, all right. But Tyrion did not deserve that. He didn't deserve to be on.
Another sad scene.
Yeah,
Tyrion choking her out. I mean, he's just broken at that point.
I mean, like the way that Tywin goes out of this world by getting killed on the toilet, it's one of the worst ways to go. But because he was doing the thing with Tyrion's girl, I think it's fitting.
Yeah. And I think for Tyrion, like, I think it starts in season 2 where everyone starts to like him just because you see the rest of his family and you see what he was around his whole life. And he's also just been someone that people look at, no pun intended, look down on just because they're like, he's not the, I don't know. They just always kicked him while he's down, I guess. And he always, man, I keep making these awful jokes.
You keep making short jokes.
He's just an awesome character. He's obviously really cunning and witty, but people still always try to bring him down no matter what. And even his dad, like that's the thing that's so sad is like even he really does try to bring honor to his family in the right way, and no one ever gives him credit or respect for it. And it's just frustrating to watch because you're rooting for him. And like the conversation where he tells his dad, or he basically, they're not winning the Battle of Blackwater without him. There's no way. And no one gives him any credit for it. And his dad basically degrades him when he asks for credit. And it's just
I mean, like in the Battle of Blackwater, his own soldiers try to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tyrion's about that life, dude. He's not dying. Are you kidding me? Like
with some help from I forget his name. His spire. Or his
Podrick, Pod the Rod.
Yeah, Pod.
Podrick's one of the best characters in the show too. He's just a feel good character. He is really too good for this world.
I was so scared that he was gonna be killed at some point.
Yeah,
but like if he would have been, there would have been no point for that.
I'm so glad he made it all the way through. He deserves a happy ending, and he becomes a knight.
Him and Samwell Tarly.
Yeah, they're two softies that I love. So, all right. In Essos, Dany and the squad, they head to Marine, free all the slaves. Just another checkpoint that they got to move through. Jorah is involved with assassination attempt on Dany's life, but he regrets it. But Dany still sends him away anyways. Dany and Daario begin a relationship. Dany and the Unsullied take over Marine, but the slaves prefer being slaves, so that's weird. Dany finds out about Jorah's betrayal, sends him away. Drogon disappears, and Dany locks up her dragons after they accidentally barbecue someone. So, not a good scene for Rhaegal and Viserion, I should say. I mean, guys, season 4, what a season!
What a season!
What a season!
I think too with that Daenerys, where she's it's really sad because it's just another one of those instances you see where, or you start to truly see where the dragons like are truly her kids. Like she's basically grounding them for what happened, but there's no communication there. I love
Yeah.
your background, Grant.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
There's no communication as far as like she can't obviously talk to them like they're her kids, but I don't know, they're obviously smart animals, and it's just you could see the pain of her locking them up. Like it was just you felt that as because it's something she had to do, but they're literally her kids.
Yeah. I mean, like Danny, she literally cannot have actual children of her
Yeah.
own. And so like these dragons, they were given to her early on in her life, so they pretty much are her children. And it's just like she raised them. She's the dragon mother. She's the mother of dragons. Like,
Yep.
and it's sad when a parent's got to discipline their kid because they accidentally burned someone alive. But it's just it's what you got to do. Great season. I love everyone, but in my opinion, after this season, Game of Thrones starts to decline a little bit, I think, in terms of quality. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but I think it dips a little bit, but we'll keep going. All right, season 5. This is also known as the Dorne season, where we see a lot of Dorne, and I didn't like it, to be quite
I
honest,
feel like
but
it's the most forgetful season.
yeah, because
ever.
I mean, I've got the least amount of notes on this season because there's not much I remember from it. Not a lot of memorable stuff. I mean, let's just do it. Jamie and Bronn, they go to Dorne to try and rescue Princess Marcella. It works out. They get her back, but Ilaria Sand is mad that Oberyn died, so she poisons her and then she dies. That's sad. Cersei appoints a new High Sparrow who causes, I wrote this down, religious shenanigans throughout the season.
Oh yeah.
And and like, look, this, I mean, another credit to the actor who plays him, Timothy Price. He's so good at playing this guy who's just like, he's just pretentious in the most subtle ways. Like he's just like, I've got God on my side. I've got the gods on my side. I know better than you, and I can do what I want.
Yeah.
And it's just like everybody buys into his stuff, and it's just like insane. But we move on. Jon offers the wildlings to cross south of the wall, and Jon mercy kills the King of the North. This is when I really started to dislike Littlefinger. Littlefinger trades Sansa to the Boltons, and Sansa is married to Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah.
And as we've seen with Theon, Ramsay is not a good person.
No.
So
It's not.
he's not a good person. So he does a lot of bad things to and with Sansa. We don't like it. Not one bit. I can't wait to see their marriage end painfully. But Jon and the Night's Watch go to Hardhome to bring more wildlings south, and this is where they battle an army of White Walkers for the first time on the show.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I know I talked about earlier Blackwater with Tyrion, me getting hyped at that, but when I see Jon like at the boats and he's like loading everyone up and he draws his sword and he says, "Night's Watch, with me, move." And then they rush the gates and he starts stabbing White Walkers like it's no tomorrow. I get hyped the same. Like, I don't know what it is, man.
The fight scene with him and the first like true White Walker, like there's White Walkers and then there's zombies, I guess
Right.
is what you would say. But like the true like actual White Walkers that was once a person, I guess is what you would say. But
Right.
That fight is just that was super cool to watch. That was a super good fight scene.
When I was watching it, we had one of our buddies over that night, and we were just watching like an episode before we went out, and that was the episode. And this dude has never seen Game of Thrones, so like to see that one episode just like randomly must have been insane.
That episode goes so hard. I love it because like, I mean, I love the fact that the White Walkers are meant to be this like incredibly intimidating force, like unstoppable in every way. But Jon is just a swordsman, and he can take one down like it's nobody's business. Like, I mean, I'm Jon Snow. Who do you think you are? I am. Yeah. So that happens, and the High Sparrow decides to put Cersei, Loras, and Marjorie Tyrell in prison for crimes against the gods. Cersei because she is obviously incestual. Loras because he is gay, and Marjorie because she is hot. I think I don't know. Like, I mean, she is hot, but
Well, it is because she lied about her brother being gay. So,
okay.
which I guess that's punishable for life. I don't know. That was what I don't understand that, but
Hey,
religion
dude,
was different back then.
yeah, I mean, people are weird in Westeros, dude. We're gonna say it 100 times throughout this video, but people are weird in Westeros.
Yeah.
I mean, not much we can say about it, but yeah, they're all in prison now. Not a good scene for them. Stannis' army is defeated by the Bolton army, and Stannis is killed by Brienne of Tarth. Great revenge scene for her. You know, finally getting some comeuppance for Stannis. Yeah, sworn oath. Keep it. After the battle, Theon helps Sansa escape from Winterfell, and this is when Theon is kind of redeemed a little bit. He becomes more of a good character, and starts to come back. Long road to redemption. I like that. And
Ups and downs.
yeah, and this is where this is one of the most like hard to watch scenes in Game of Thrones. Cersei is sentenced to the Walk of Shame, and that is, I mean, that's tough, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
Shame.
exactly. How would you feel if you were told to take off all your clothes and walk through downtown OU while some chick in a nun costume is ringing a bell behind you saying shame while people are throwing beer and Big Mama's burritos at you?
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's not a good scene, dude.
No
Like,
bueno.
That's
And
terrible.
you can't. And every single time she would try to cover up herself, they would whip her.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, they cut her hair too. It's all disheveled. It's just, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, Cersei, I don't like Cersei that much. She's a great character, but this made me feel bad for her. It did. Like,
And we talked about it earlier, and I always talk about this when it comes to Cersei. A lot of times when stuff happens to her, it was caused from like a butterfly effect of something that she did, like
right.
earlier. Like she gave the High Sparrow his power,
Yeah.
and then ultimately it led to her being imprisoned by him and forced to do that, which we'll get into later. How she did not let that slide.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I mean, like Cersei, she made the mistake of thinking that she could just control the High Sparrow, which she could not because he's all sorts of crazy. But you live and you learn. Well, some people live and they learn, but other people just die.
Yeah.
All right, and in the land of Essos, Tyrion is escorted by Varys to meet Dany. Dany is losing control over Meereen. Arya joins the Faceless Men to become a faceless ninja of sorts. Jorah intercepts Tyrion, plans to give him over to Dany to clear his name. The Sons of the Harpy cause a ruckus in Meereen. Not a good time to be a Meerenian. Jorah catches a deadly disease. It's like that rock disease that I cannot remember the name of for the life of me. Jorah turns Tyrion over to Dany. She names him Hand of the Queen. And the Sons of the Harpy corner Dany and the gang, but Drogon saves them and flies away with Dany on her back, on his back. Not a bad way to end a pretty forgetful season, I think. Oh, and also I forgot to mention this before you say anything. Jon gets killed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And two, like Ollie, I mean it wasn't just him, but still boo Ollie.
Yeah, boo Ollie. I mean, Ollie, you're not that guy, pal. You got to get out of here. But yeah. I mean, like Jon, he's another one of those guys. He's exactly like his quote unquote father. He's just too good for this world, dude. And it takes some, divine intervention to keep him going. Like,
Yeah. The thing I was going to ask is, where is this the season where Arya gets to the House of Black and White, or is that next season?
I think it's next season
Okay.
because I think she goes blind in next season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
I was just looking
I
at the
could talk
episodes.
about Arya for like 45 minutes. Grant knows that's my favorite character.
yeah,
Yeah.
Arya is such a good character, but like I don't know why, but like seasons like 5 and 6, they kind of blur together for me in terms of what happens, just because she's training with the Faceless Men, and she's she's learning to become this like superhuman character and everything. But it is what it is.
And her dynamic with, I think, her, and we already talked about the Hound and how everyone, he has a big softy at heart. And that's the thing is, Arya is kind of the opposite in the sense of where she looks like she can't harm a fly, but she's tough as nails, like
Yeah,
basically down to her core. So and he sees that in her. And it's just one of those things where he just had her with him, where it was just kind of, they were traveling and he was using her as like a bartering chip to like kind of progress. And he saw that she was something way more than that. And
Yeah.
it's kind of touching because you see it in both of them.
I mean, like I think Grant loves to bring up that quote by the Hound where like Arya, she talks about how can you keep such and such safe, and he goes, "I kept you safe."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's such a good line. It summarizes everything we love about those two. They're like a father-daughter relationship, or like a deranged uncle with a murderous niece. Like, yeah. But here we go, season 6. Some consider to be the best season of Game of Thrones. I
am one of those people, actually.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there for me. It's definitely one of my favorites. Not the favorite, but it's definitely a great season. And it's also the first season of Game of Thrones that the writers of the show had no material like to draw from. So this is all original content made by the writers. So let's dive right in. Sansa and Theon, they're being chased by the Boltons. Cersei has returned to the Red Keep, but she still awaits trial before the gods. Jon is brought back to life by Melisandre and the Lord of Light. Always love to see him. Great to have him back.
Come back in the first or second? Oh, he came back at the end of the first, didn't he?
Yeah,
Episode?
at the end. And like we all binge watched this show, so we probably don't have like the same effect as like people that just watched it like season to season. Can you imagine like watching your favorite character get killed and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's dead? Well, that's Game of Thrones. That's just what happens. But except he's not dead and he's going to be brought back to life after the first episode is over in season 6. So crazy turn of events. Crazy turn of events.
Bring back Rob.
Bring back Rob. Yeah. I'll sign the petition. Sign me up. Rickon Stark is captured by the Boltons. I feel like Rickon is just like the forgotten Stark sibling. Like he doesn't do anything.
Doesn't get any screen time either.
Doesn't get any screen time. Like, I mean, like it's like the writers of the show knew that he wasn't that important, so they just decided, okay, we're not going to spend any time on him. Like, we're just going to focus on the other siblings. Which later on in this season we'll talk about it, but not very emotionally carrying, I would say. Brienne meets Sansa and begins to escort her to Jon at the Wall. Bran trains with the Three-Eyed Raven and sees visions of the past. Theon goes back to the Iron Islands to serve his sister, Yara. Sansa and Brienne arrive at the Wall and begin to discuss retaking Winterfell with Jon. The Hound rejoins the Brotherhood without banners after he goes on like that spiritual journey that he had where he was like with these pacifists that like stayed out of the war, but then they all died. So he's just like, I'm just going to go back and start killing people again. So, I wouldn't say it's the best character arc, but it's pretty nice, I think. Euron Greyjoy arrives on the scene and he kills his brother, Balon Greyjoy, and is named the new king of the Iron Islands. Euron Greyjoy, I hate Euron Greyjoy.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, not just like
all that.
Like, not just like, oh my gosh, like this actor did such a great job. I hate this character. Like, No, it's like I literally hate I literally hate Euron's presence in the story.
Yeah.
Like he's
Just kind of shows up and has all this power for no reason. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean like I know what I just said there was only like 2 sentences, but seriously, it seems like that's all they wrote for his character going in for that one episode that he has this season. He comes in, kills his brother, takes over the Iron Islands, and that's it.
Yeah.
And suddenly he has all this power now. Like no one knows where he came from. He's just there now. But I mean, yeah, it's just strange situation. Sam begins to make plans to train to become a maester.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, love Sam, love his adventures. And Grant, I see your background. I know that's
I was
Hodor.
waiting for you to
Don't-
get to it. Yep.
Don't you dare think that I forgot about Hodor. I did not. John begins the battle of the bastards against Ramsay Bolton, and before this starts, Ramsay kills Rickon Stark. You know, it's supposed to be this huge emotional moment, but I don't even think that Rickon and John even had like a scene together.
yeah,
I mean, like I get it, they're brothers and everything, but it's just like, I mean, what could have been? Like if they just explored their relationship a little bit more, like I don't know. I mean, Rickon barely has any lines, so I mean, maybe I'm asking for too much, but
him
Anyway.
running across the field from arrows was like that's like half of his screen time in the show.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, I do love that scene where John, you know, he's running into battle, and you know, like he's on the horse and everything, and you know, he tries to charge at the army of the Boldens by himself, gets knocked off the horse, and then he draws, you know, Grant had a picture of it earlier. He draws his sword against the charging horses and everything. He's ready to stand by himself. Then the battle commences. I think that's awesome. I remember watching the battle for the first time, and I thought it was so intense. Like it was like one of the most intense battles I've ever seen, especially for
That
like
scene in particular is definitely, I mean, for me, top 5 in the entire show.
it's very very good. And you know, when I'm like running on a treadmill sometimes, and like I'll just like keep watching the show, and I'm just like I feel like I'm charging into battle with John. Like it's I don't know. I'm such a nerd. Anyways, let's keep going. John wins the battle after the Knights of the Eyrie arrive, convinced by Sansa, and they defeat the Bolton army. And I love the scene where John is just pummeling Ramsay into the ground. And then the very next scene, Ramsay is locked inside his dog cage, essentially, and his dogs eat him alive. So I think that's very fair justice in the world of Game of Thrones. Cersei blows up the Sept of Baelor with wildfire and kills the Tyrells and the High Sparrow.
Yeah, that episode at the beginning where they're playing the music and they're building up to it, and then that happens. That is like top 2 or 3 episodes for me in the entire show. It was, and then after that happens, King Tommen, who realizes that his lady love and a bunch of other people just got killed, and it was his mom's doing.
Yeah.
He took his own life like a child.
I mean, he's just like I want off this ride. Like,
yeah,
it's just
and that's the thing is he was literally someone with power. I mean, he was the king, but Cersei and all these other people were trying to sink their claws into him and just use him for whatever they wanted to do, and it literally killed him.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a place for children.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal, dude. It's not a good scene for the Lannisters. But Grant, this is what I'm talking about. Bran Stark fully becomes the three-eyed raven after he inadvertently kills everyone's favorite gentle giant, Hodor. And let's talk about that scene really quick, because Hodor is not actually named Hodor, but there's a reason that he keeps saying Hodor over and over again.
Good door.
Hold the door.
Hold the door. Hold the door. Hodor. Hodor. I mean, that scene is it's so cool because like he's looking back in time and everything. He sees young Hodor and like future Hodor is trying to protect them and everything. And then he just like paralyzes his mind, so he only says Hodor, Hodor over and over again. Like,
Yeah.
such an emotional
So
scene.
the books stop after like season 5, right?
Yeah, season 5 is loosely adapted from Dance of the Dragons.
Okay. So do the writers of season 6, did they know that that was like supposed to be a thing, or did they come up with that?
I mean, like, from what I've heard, they like got input from George R. R. Martin, the writer of the books.
Okay.
They get like he gave them that idea. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, like, if that's true, George R. R. Martin can write, and I'm not much of a book reader, but I should probably read the books
Yeah.
if this is his stuff that he's got. But yeah, that happens, and at the end of the season, Jon Snow is crowned King of the North. And while all this is happening in Essos, Dany is stranded in the Dothraki lands. Dario and Jorah try to rescue her. Tyrion, Grey Worm, and Missandei, they are left to govern over Meereen. Arya finishes her training with the Faceless Men after, all those scenes with like her getting the crap kicked out of her by that one chick. And eventually she decides to head home to Westeros after declaring a girl's name is Arya Stark and I'm going home or something. Like that's a good scene. Dany kills all the Dothraki leaders and takes control over them once again. The Masters of Meereen attempt to retake the city, but Dany returns and stops them. Dany sends Jorah to find a cure for his deadly disease. Yara and Theon arrive in Meereen and ally themselves with Dany. And after gaining control of the Unsullied, Dothraki, and the Ironborn, Dany and the gang are finally heading over to Westeros. And it is such a breath of fresh air because I hate flipping back from two continents. I want everyone on the same continent. There's so many characters in the show, and season 7, here we come. Guys, thoughts on season 6 before we move on?
I would just touch on Arya just a little bit.
Please do.
So from the beginning of the show, obviously, I talked about that earlier, where she was just like, she wanted to be a warrior. She wasn't born to be a lady. She always says, like, that's not who I am. Like, she always talks about that. But obviously, her life takes a drastic turn when her father is killed in King's Landing, and she is basically out with random people all the time. She's basically by herself, essentially. She's with people as she goes, but she's by herself. And she learns stuff from all these different people. She learns for her first teacher, the water dancing sword instructor. Then she's with the Hound, and then she's with the people, the priests that worship the Lord of Light. And then she goes to that House of Black and White, and she's learning all these things from all these different people, seeing things from all these different perspectives. And as you said, she goes to this place and becomes like the super soldier, essentially. And part of it is losing yourself and just becoming a faceless person. And she's like, no, I'm like, this is who I am. Like, I've learned from all these other people that how the world works. And I'm smart enough to be like, no, like I can do everything I've learned. I'm not throwing everything away just for this. Like, I can be who I am still. And then obviously she uses everything she's learned in the next 2 seasons to essentially get revenge and fight for her family the best she knows how, which is how she learned. I don't know. It's just her development as a character is just, she's obviously very smart and obviously very talented, and her actor does a good job, I think, too, as well. But she's just an amazing character. And I think her moment of saying a girl is Arya Stark is extremely powerful.
She's definitely up there. One of my favorite characters of the show. I mean, season 7 and season 8, she doesn't get to do as much as I hope she would have. I mean, she kind of resorts to being like she's the girl that can fight everything. Yeah. And I feel like she's like made for more than that. She's supposed to be more of a character than that. But Grant, any thoughts on season 6?
No, I thought you summed it up well. I mean, definitely one of my favorite seasons. I thought this was like the high point of the show. From here, it kind of goes downhill a little bit. Not a whole lot. I thought people were a little dramatic about hating on the last two seasons, but
Yeah.
this one is definitely my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do season 7. All right, and we're all in Westeros now. I don't have a lot of notes on this season, but Dany and the pals arrive at Dragonstone, and they make alliances with the Tyrells and the Dornish. Jon and Davos, they go to Dragonstone to ally themselves with Dany, and Euron forms an alliance with Cersei, who is the new queen of Westeros, and a war begins between Dany and Cersei for the throne. Sam finds a cure for Jorah's disease, and Jorah returns to Dany in full form. Brandon and Arya, they return to Winterfell. This is a lot of returning so far. There's a lot of people just getting back to where they need to go. So, I mean, I don't know. But the Lannister armies kill Olenna Tyrell and capture Alaria Sand, and this effectively ends the alliance between Dany and those two parties. But I do want to talk about the death of Olenna Tyrell really quick. She's going to die, and Jaime Lannister gives her some poison to just to make it peaceful. She drinks it, and then she says, "Oh, by the way, I totally killed your son.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell Cersei. I want her to know." And I was just like, "That's such a good way to go out.
Yeah.
My goodness, go out on your own terms. That's really good." After his years and years of maniacal mustache twirling, Littlefinger is killed by Arya.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Is Jared in there?
He's not. He
Oh.
he disappears sometimes.
Yeah, just like Littlefinger.
Exactly.
Another.
Maybe Littlefinger, right?
Yeah, maybe he is Littlefinger.
Yeah.
I mean,
Guess so.
yeah, Littlefinger, another annoying character, crossed off the list. We've got so many more to go, and we've only got a season left after this. Jon stresses the coming threat of the White Walkers and wants the war to be stopped so that they all can fight against them. Makes sense, I would say. Jon leads a group to the north of the Wall to capture a White Walker so they can bring it back to Cersei. They barely get out alive, and Viserion is killed. Quite an emotional moment for Dany, who goes to rescue them because, as we stated earlier, this is one of her kids after all. And, it's not, I don't think it was a great plan to begin with, but, it's sad that, you had to lose a couple people along the way. Cersei refuses to cease fire, and Jaime leaves to go to Winterfell to fight against the White Walkers with all the good guys. And Jon and Dany, at the end of the season, they begin a fling of sorts, and yeah, that's pretty much it for season 7. Season 7, it's not that complex. There's like one big battle that happens, and it's supposed to be like pretty devastating. But oh, by the way, Sam's father and brother get killed in that battle. So
did you touch on how Jon is actually a Targaryen?
I'm going to do that next season. Next season is when he actually. No, it's so at the end of this season, it's revealed by Bran to Sam that Jon's real name is Aegon Targaryen.
Okay.
But it isn't actually told to Jon until season 8, episode 1.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I know.
I didn't know. For some reason, I
So
thought it was
us as the
7.
audience know, but John doesn't. And
Yeah.
then I think also, yeah. Go on. Are you
No.
doing a recap of the? Oh, okay.
No, keep going.
If Danny and John, I think they sleep together at the end of season 7,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
last
time.
episode.
and around the same time that you realize that that's happening. And then also that's the thing is it's what Samuel or Brand says is all of this, like the beginning of the entire show where it's Robert and Lyanna,
Yeah.
like it was all because Robert Baratheon loved someone that didn't love him back. Like that was like the whole thing. Like it's crazy that bombshell gets dropped, but
Yeah. All in all, I think season 7 really could have benefited from having a couple of extra episodes.
Yeah.
They had 7 episodes in season 7. All the other seasons except for season 8, They have 10. I think they could have benefited from having 3 extra hours of storytelling. I mean, just flesh out the world a little bit more. We want more. We want more Game of Thrones. Let us have it. Like, I don't know. I'm getting worked up over this.
The other thing I think that happens in this season is the dragon.
Yeah,
White
yeah,
Walker.
yeah. Viserion gets killed by the Night King. I think the Night King actually kills him.
He
And-
throws the spear through him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then immediately after that, the White Walkers, the Night King raises the dead. So he raises like everyone who died north of the Wall, and he also raises Viserion. So now they have a dragon on their side. And then with Viserion, they destroy the Wall and they travel south. So, and here we are, season 8. This is where everything goes down. So literally, everything like goes downhill pretty fast.
Sure, they'll wrap it up well.
Yeah, I'm sure like without a hitch, like they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure everything we've talked about will get wrapped up nice and well and perfect, all in
6 episodes.
6 episodes.
like guys, I don't want to
They
jinx. I
won't leave anything out.
don't want to jinx myself here, but I'm thinking this might be the most satisfying ending of all time. Like,
Might. All right, let's get into it.
let's just go. All right, we're all in Westeros now. All of our heroes are on the same side. Whoopee.
Now they're all south of the wall too.
They're all south of the Wall. Everyone's together except for Cersei and Euron, who nobody even cares about. But we're all on the same side. Not a lot happens in episode 1. I wrote this down. It's just a lot of talking, really.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of talking, a lot of preparation. What's up, Grant?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I think episode 1 might have been actually my favorite episode of this whole season.
Really?
Is this where they're all like talking to each other, and is this like right before the war?
No, that's episode 2.
Okay. All right. My bad. I went to.
I like episode 2 a lot. Yeah, I'll talk about that.
They're basically all talking to each other before their certain death.
Yeah. Yeah. So like episode 1, Yara, she decides she's going to sail back and retake the Iron Islands. Doesn't make a lot of sense since there's still a war to be fought on the mainland, but cool, you go, girl. Jon learns that his real name is Aegon Targaryen, and he is the true heir to the Iron Throne. And I know we talked about foreshadowing earlier. Back all the way back in season 1, the last words that Ned says to Jon before Jon goes to join the Night's Watch and Ned goes to King's Landing is that the next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother. And when Jon finds out that he's Aegon Targaryen, he is in the crypt, standing in front of Ned, and Sam tells him about his mother. So that is some pretty good foreshadowing. I'm not going to get a lot of chances to compliment this season, so I'm going to take this like really well. Like this is a good example of foreshadowing, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah. So episode 2 happens. The armies are setting up shop at Winterfell. They're making dragon glass weapons, and they're waiting for the incoming threat of the White Walkers. This is where like all the people are talking and everything. And in this episode, it's one of like the best moments in the season, I think. Jaime knights Brienne, and that's a really beautiful scene. And like you see the smile on Brienne's face. She's wanted it her entire life. It's such a good scene. I love it very much. And then afterwards, Podrick just starts singing out of nowhere. He's got the voice of an angel.
He can do everything. He's the best character in the show.
He can quite literally do everything, and I'm so glad he made it to the end. Like he's like such a good character. But at long last, the long night begins, and I've got a couple lines here. I'm just gonna try and sum up everything that happens, and after I'm done summing up the long night, we'll talk about it. So Melisandre shows up out of nowhere, and Davos wants to kill her. Not fun. The White Walkers arrive at Winterfell, and they immediately wipe out all of the Dothraki. The army of the dead wash over our heroes, and they are all overwhelmed, but not a lot of them die for some reason.
Yep.
The Night King is riding on the undead Viserion, and Dany and Jon ride their dragons to try and kill him. Arya does some ninja moves and kills a bunch of White Walkers. There's also a scene where Arya is hiding in the library in Winterfell, and it's like the zombies, they turn from like, these fast paced, like, I'm gonna, run at you like the speed of light zombies to like Walking Dead zombies for some reason. I thought that was very strange. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. I don't know. The Night King falls off Viserion and raises the dead that are around them. And Jon, like, he's surrounded. He shouldn't get out of it alive, but he does. So, yay, Jon's still here.
How many times Jon should have died in that episode? There was like 10 different times that Jon easily should have died and he did not.
Right. I mean, you could say that for like most of the characters in this episode.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, the dead begin to punch through the stone in the crypt where Sansa, Tyrion, and others are hiding. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I took a year of Taekwondo and I tried to break a board with my fist and it hurt. It was not fun. So I don't know how these decomposed bodies are punching through 6 inches of stone.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. We talked about that before where it was like the characters had prior knowledge of the Night King being able to raise the dead. So putting everybody in the crypt is a bad idea. But I didn't even think about how they probably shouldn't have been able to exit the tombs anyway. But,
Like, I mean, like, yeah, you could say, like, oh my gosh, why were they even in the crypt to begin with? But, like, honestly, I don't see a problem with it. It's the most secure place. And theoretically, human bodies should not be able to punch through stone. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know. It's just silly. But Theon and Jorah sacrifice themselves to save Bran and Dany, respectively. It's very heartbreaking. And, Theon, he finally completes his redemption arc. In season 2, he wanted to kill Bran, but in this season, he decides to save him. I thought that was a really good way to wrap it up for him. And as the Night King goes in to kill Bran, he is jumped by Arya, who kills him using a fancy knife trick, where they drop the knife and everything, and then like stab. And because the Night King is now dead, all of the other White Walkers die along with him.
Which I think makes sense. But then again, like we've talked about this, I love Arya, so I'll defend her to my last breath. But that is a bit crazy how there's like 20 White Walkers that like Jon has, like it's tough to have hand-to-hand combat with one of them. And there were so many of them and Arya just jumped over all of them.
Yeah. I mean, she
I don't understand how she got out of the room.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I've always
She was
thought-
trapped in there with Missandei and Clegane, or wasn't it was those two, right? And
Melisandre.
then- yeah. Oh yeah, I always mess up those names.
It's
But,
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing though, is with her, like I understand that a little bit. I just feel like she's done crazier stuff. She's literally done everything. I feel like getting out of a room she could pull off. But you're right. I don't know how. I wish they could have shown it, but
Yeah.
I guess
I mean,
you don't
like-
want to have it spoiled that she's going to be the one to stop everything, I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, like, who would you guys like? Were you guys satisfied that Arya was the one to kill the Night King? Like, I would have rather
I was, but
you were.
Arya
I-
lover stuff.
I was fine with that. I just didn't like the way it happened. I thought it was really dumb.
I mean, like, personally, I know a lot of people were saying like, "Oh my gosh, Jon should be the one to kill the Night King," but like that's good and everything because he's had experience with them before. But I mean, Bran is basically the antithesis to the Night King. So like,
but
shouldn't Bran play some like mind games with him or something, or like do something? Like he was just chilling.
I do not like really what they did with Bran's. He's like a computer, and then he's not even really himself after he becomes and he says that too, and it's obvious that he's like, I'm not. He goes, they're like Bran, and he goes, I'm not really. Like he says it in like that tone of voice too, and you're just kind of like, I mean, okay, like I get it, but it's just kind of frustrating because I mean, I think he was a likable character, but obviously it's hard to write him as someone that's really cool and interesting if he doesn't have the use of his legs. But and
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they could have done a better job with
Well-
writing.
Well, Drew, I mean, like you talk about like him not being able to use his legs. I mean, Grant doesn't have legs. I think he's pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The three-eyed raven.
yeah, he can be the three-eyed raven.
Well, that was what's funny too is like him. So him like Littlefinger like acting like he was going to manipulate Bran by giving him the knife that ultimately ended up killing the Night King.
Right.
And then Bran pulls out a quote that he said in like season 2 or something that chaos is a ladder, and it was like, and he's just realizing like, oh, he knows everything then, which is kind of like, if he really can do that, I feel like he could have told so many people so many different things that could have derailed so many different things. I don't know, like
Right.
a bit too powerful of a move there.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just wasted potential. I can see it going like 100 different ways, but I didn't expect that, so I'll give the writers that. Like but yeah. So that's the long night. It was an hour and a half of complete darkness that I had to watch in my dorm room. Blinds rolled down, all the lights turned off, and I had to turn the brightness up on my TV. So that was not fun, but it's finally over. And now the most terrifying threat in Game of Thrones is dead. We've got
After
Just
an hour.
like the
After like literally an hour.
Yeah.
Like, that was all we got.
and we've got 3 episodes left. What are we gonna do? Like, but I'll tell you what we're gonna do. I'm gonna summarize it. After the battle, all of the armies celebrate the fact that they're still alive. I mean, I would too.
So
The
we
lead-
essentially get the same episode that we get in episode 2 with
Yeah.
episode 4. But
It's
go
just-
on.
It's just them preparing for another battle.
Yeah.
Like, and so like it's the leaders somehow reveal that they have only lost half of their men, which is gosh darn lucky. It looked like they lost all of them for a second there. But Dany and Sansa argue because they don't like each other. I wrote that down because it's just true. Jamie and Brienne get it on for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting that. That's for sure. Like I thought they were more friends than lovers, but whatever. I'm not a writer. John, Dany, and the armies sail back to Dragonstone, but the Iron Fleet intercepts them and kills Rhaegal, and they capture Missandei. Yeah, that happens. It's unexpected because
Very cool.
yeah, it's a very quick death, and it's hard to wonder why they couldn't see them ahead of them. I mean, there's like 20 ships there, but let's move on. Arya and the Hound begin to ride to King's Landing so they can kill Cersei. Jamie goes back to King's Landing to save Cersei, so it's a little counterproductive there. Cersei kills Missandei, and Dany gets ticked. And now, just like that, we are at episode 5, the last. I mean, it's the second to last episode, but this is one where like people really got mad about. So let's keep going. Varys learns the truth about Jon and begins to plot to get him on the Iron Throne. Dany learns of his betrayal and sentences him to death. Poor Varys. I thought he was, better at keeping secrets than that, but let's move on.
Have you ever seen that actor's reaction to like they're like all reading it together and then like he sees that like that's the way he's gonna die and he's just like pissed.
Yeah.
Like, he like throws the script and he's like, all right, whatever.
I mean, because like this character, he's been around since season 1.
He's
so
a great character too.
he's a great character, very well written character until now, where he just acts like an idiot. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad, but the actor had a justified reaction, I think, to his death. Dany declares that she cannot rule by love, so she decides to rule through fear, and she does this after Jon refuses to sleep with her. I'm not saying that there's a correlation between the two, but this is it's just a fact. It happens.
It is.
Like I mean, it's sad really, because I thought Daenerys was more than that, but
Bonk.
so the Battle of King's Landing begins, and it is over in like 5 minutes. And I'm not kidding, it is. Like Dany destroys the Iron Fleet, the Golden Company, and all the Scorpions with just Drogon. So you wonder why she even needed the armies to begin with. After she does this, the armies of the North, the Unsullied, and the Dothraki, they all sack the city. The Lannister army surrenders very quickly, and the bells ring in King's Landing, signaling a surrender. So, obviously, it's a great victory for Dany, great victory for Jon, great victory for all the good guys. Let's peacefully end this war, and let's have you on the Iron Throne. But oh no, after a long series of looks and uncomfortable silences, Dany begins to fly away on Drogon and burn the living heck out of everyone in King's Landing. Why?
So yeah, that to me is the biggest letdown and the most awful writing that appears in the show. This entire show, and Tyrion talks about it too, where he's like believed in her, and everyone saw it come. Well, okay. So you believe in Daenerys, and everyone's like, Daenerys is going to be this ruler that is like different than everybody else, and you want that to be the case. But she realizes, like, through all this stuff, that being a leader is hard, but she can still do it. Like, she's a Targaryen, she has a right to the throne, blah blah blah. But she's like developing as this character, and all of a sudden, season 8 comes, and she just gets bitter about everything. And then that episode comes, they win the fight, she's going to be queen. And she's just like, whatever. I'll just kill everybody. And it's like that doesn't not in line with her character at all throughout the first like 7 seasons of the show.
Yeah.
And then it's like they try to backtrack in the beginning of season 8 and make her seem like she's some bitter, mean, awful person when she was not ever until that point. Like, just because Jon doesn't like her, like, there's no. Like, what? I don't know.
Well, Grant, you actually like this twist a little bit. I mean, you understand it more than others, I would say.
I like the connection between her burning down the city and, I mean, what the Mad King wanted to do originally. But I mean, I didn't necessarily like it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. But like, yeah,
No,
I mean, in theory, the connection between, her father obviously wanting to burn down the whole city and her actually burning down the whole city, it sounds really good on paper, but, I don't know what it is. Maybe the seasons were too short. Maybe there should have been more episodes, more time to develop this. It just seems rushed and out of character. But, let's keep going, and, we'll crap on this season even more. Begins to burn everyone. Jon is shocked, and the battle suddenly starts up again. Arya makes it to the Red Keep, but the Hound convinces her to turn back. The Hound continues forward to kill the Mountain. Arya,
not only good part, but definitely a good part of this episode.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I know the Clegane Bowl of sorts was a big meme, but I enjoyed seeing it. I mean, the Hound finally got his revenge, basically. Arya tries to help as many people as she can get to safety, and she is terrible at it. It's probably all those years of killing finally, not paying off. Jaime gets into the Red Keep via the secret smuggler's entrance, but kills Euron before he gets in. So Euron's dead. I'm happy and glad he's gone. So, yeah, good riddance, Euron. The Hound pushes himself and the Mountain off of a cliff into a pillar of fire, killing them both. So, pillar of fire, kind of symbolic for the Hound and everything. He got his face burned early on in his life. Cersei and Jaime reunite one last time before they are crushed by the crumbling castle. And Dany eventually gets tired, or Drogon runs out of breath or something, and the massacre is just over. And Arya is the only one in the city to make it out alive. So, I mean, like, dude, I know you love Arya, but this is just like, she's the only one to survive.
Unstoppable.
Really unstoppable force.
Like, there are scenes in the episode where buildings literally fall on top of her, and then they cut away, and then in the next scene, she's just laying on top of rubble, and she's just like, it's just like, what? How did that happen? Like,
Yep.
I mean, still love you, Arya.
But what do we say to the god of death, Eli?
Not today. Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Episode 5, that was a real crap storm. episode 6. This is where it all comes to end. The series finale, at least until they decide to reboot it in like 10 years or so. Let's keep it going. So after the battle is over, Tyrion renounces Dany, probably because she's insane, and tells Jon that she must die.
Yep.
Dany enters the Red Keep and walks towards the Iron Throne. Jon enters the room, and while giving her a kiss, he stabs her through the heart, killing her. Ooh. Yeah. Big moment right there. I mean, yeah, it's pretty big. That's a pretty big moment. Grant, your thumb is down. Why?
I don't know. I mean, at that point of the show, everything was just going all over the place. I didn't even know how to feel about that.
I mean, it's kind of rushed a little bit. I mean, like she gets stabbed by Jon within like the first 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't seem right. I don't know. Like, anyways, like
that's the thing too. Well, like, and Tyrion's imprisoned, and then Jon meets with him, and Tyrion's like, "You have to kill her," and Jon's like, "Do I have to?" And Tyrion's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Darn," and then he goes and does it. Like that's like you.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
like-
okay.
Oh, darn it. Yeah, but the point is, Dany is dead. Drogon burns the Iron Throne because I don't know why. Like, is Drogon
Yeah.
secretly smart, or is Drogon the writer of the show?
Well,
Is-
Drogon, I'm willing to believe that he is smart, but him being smart enough to be like, man, this would be great symbolism for all the viewers at home is just crazy.
I thought that was a little corny.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's again on paper seems like a really good idea, but not a good idea. Don't do it. All right, so that's that, and some time passes after that. Winter literally comes and goes within like a month, I think. So not much of a fuss there. And the Lords of Winter of Westeros, sorry, they elect a new king, Bran Stark.
No, three-eyed raven.
Yeah. How are we feeling about our new king?
I hated that so much.
They elected I mean, okay, well, I don't know. It's just they were like, well, people are going to be unhappy with whoever we choose, so how about we just choose no one can be upset with this because he's not even really a person. So we can, like that's literally what it was. They're like, nobody
Yeah.
can really get mad because he's like, what are you gonna do? Be mad that a crippled computer can like be the king? Like no one's gonna be mad at it. So they're like, that works.
When in reality, it's like the worst possible choice. I mean, maybe not in universe, but like outside of it, it's like, why? Like, there's no reason.
And Tyrion he says, that's his reasoning for him becoming king is like, everyone loves good stories, and Bran has a good story.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay.
That quote right there, that's like a grandpa at the end of a movie, like reading his kid a book. Like, everyone loves a good story, and that's a good story.
Yeah.
Who
And-
would you? So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna ask, who would you guys? I mean, unless you were fine with Bran getting it in the end, who would you have rather seen get the Iron Throne?
I mean, for me, it might be cliche, and it might be sort of what people expect, but there's a reason for that. I think Jon Snow should have got it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Jon, not only is he the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, he also killed the person who's responsible for the most amount of deaths in Westeros. Like, he deserved it. I mean, he should be rewarded as being a hero, but he's not. So,
I definitely thought. Oh, sorry, Drew. Go ahead.
No, I think they definitely. Now, I honestly didn't dislike the fact that Samuel Tarly brought up, why don't the people decide? And they're all like,
Yeah.
oh, we're rich and no one cares about them.
Yeah.
But I think if they did that, and that was funny, like I thought that actually was whatever, like believable. But
Yeah.
I think they could have gone that route and elected Jon. and it would have been like a cool coming, like, because those people, a lot of those people know who John is. They know that he killed the person that destroyed the city.
Yeah,
And obviously the North is voting for him.
right.
And like I feel like he would definitely would be the favorite in an election, and I think that would be believable. And but John might not even want it, is the problem.
I don't want it. She's my queen. I love you. Sorry, but like that's like all his lines in this season, and it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous. Like
He's
I mean,
like
like-
a sad puppy the whole
Yeah.
time.
the fact that I mean, we're talking about voting. I mean, if the fact that John is the quote unquote son, he was raised by Ned Stark, that should get him tons of points because
Yeah.
everywhere in Westeros, people know Ned Stark's name, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, that's Ned Stark. That's an honorable guy." I mean, like, come on, like it's the obvious choice. I don't know why the writers just decided to subvert our expectations for no reason. Like, but I mean, after this, Sansa declares herself the queen in the North. So now it's that. I mean, for what it's worth, I think Sansa, she had like the most complete character arc out of everyone. She wanted to be queen in the first season, and then eventually she becomes queen of her own like sovereign state, basically. So I can kind of respect that.
She is what she is, and
Yeah.
I think and she got what she wanted. But at times early, she was annoying, and then she becomes, and then you feel bad for her because of obviously the Ramsey situation.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to where she's a little bit annoying, but she's also smart and makes good decisions. So she makes up for her kind of being bossy a little bit, but that's who she is. And so I don't
Right.
know. I think she plays her character well.
Oh yeah, I mean, like let's just make a disclaimer right now. Everyone on this show plays their character to perfection.
Yeah, true.
It's the writing that is bad.
You forget that they are acting. Like I don't see them as acting. There's very few times where I'm like put off by the way someone acts in the show. Like I can't think of an instance.
Right.
I guess you're wrong, maybe a little bit.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's why it's hard for a lot of actors on the show to get other jobs because they're seen as their characters. Like,
Yeah.
But, anyways, Arya decides to travel and discover lands outside of Westeros. I mean, I guess like I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like,
Really?
I mean,
So-
because like.
Why is that?
I mean, because like at least from what I saw, her whole character arc at least is either like she's going to pursue her list of revenge killing, she's going to kill everyone, or she's going to realize that it's dumb and she should go back to her family. But then in the end, it's just like, okay, she does neither. She realizes that it's dumb, but she doesn't go back to her family. She decides to go off to other lands, which I thought she already did. Like,
I'll discount the list thing. I think she completely learned from Clegane, and Clegane says to her, "Revenge isn't like what I am. Like I'm driven by revenge towards my brother, and
Right.
it's ruined my life. Don't let that happen to you." And I think that's why she moved away from that. As far as her family, like I understand, like I wanted her to stay too, and I was a little bit surprised that she wanted to like go off and do whatever. But you see with like Gendry, she could have easily settled down. But if she's with her family, she could have been knighted, I guess. But it's just like her situation. She goes, I want to go out and do my own thing because I'm different, I feel like, than everybody else here, and she can do whatever she wants. I think she's just wants to be her own person,
right.
someone else.
Yeah. And, like, I mean, Arya, like, she's such a likable character, and it's just like even like the questionable things about her character arc, I can kind of forgive that just because she's a fan favorite, that's for sure. And the last thing of the series, Jon goes back to the Night's Watch, so his character arc goes just full circle, and he's back to being a loser on the Night's Watch. So, the end. That's it.
Reunited with his dog too.
Yeah, that is
The last surviving direwolf. I'm fairly certain, right?
yeah, that's the one positive of the season. He gets to go off and have more adventures with Ghost. So
Is Arya's direwolf Still alive?
It might be still alive because, like, I remember she saw it in
I remember
season 7.
she came face to
Yeah,
face
so
with
it's and then that's another. I completely forgot about that. I guess when she has that moment where she's like, "It's not." She's just come with me or whatever, and you won't come. And she's like, "It's not who you are. Like you aren't a follower of, like you aren't going to follow me around because that's not who you are." And she's like, I think that's what she feels too. So
Yeah.
she has a connection with her dog.
Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, I think we've hit all the points that we were going to talk about. Grant, you suggested that we do a character draft to find out who the best characters really are in this show, and
Mhm.
I think it's a good idea. Drew, what do you say?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's go. Grant, since you suggested it, you go first. Drew second, and then I'll go third.
Best or favorite characters?
Either. I mean,
Because I mean, like,
You're not picking for ones you want in a fight. You're picking ones that.
well, no, I'm saying, yeah, like I thought Joffrey was a great character just because of how unlikable he was, but like he
right.
definitely was one of my favorites. So
Yeah. Let's go best then, because then we can include villains as well.
Okay.
Because like let's be honest, like a lot of the characters in Game of Thrones are really unlikable. So
Okay, so I feel like there's a very, well, maybe not clear 1-1, but a 1-1 that a lot of people would take, but I'm gonna go away from that. I'm gonna go with my favorite character, Tyrion
yeah,
Lannister. Always just kind of behind the scenes of all these rulers and just getting stuff done.
I mean,
Never really a bad guy and had some very, very great scenes. So
I mean, I would make the argument that that is the clear 1-1 right there.
okay.
Like, I mean,
as far as favorite characters or
yeah,
best characters,
I mean, I was always rooting for him. Even at the end, I wanted him to get the Iron Throne. So
right. I mean, he becomes the hand of the king at the end. So I mean,
Yeah.
it works out for him. So
not something he wanted, but something he received.
yeah,
I don't want it.
I don't want it. Drew, number 2 to you.
All right. Think I'm just gonna go the easy route and take Jon Snow.
Yep.
Just he's I mean, in a show like this, you almost have to have him. He's doesn't lose battles. He doesn't go against his morals. He's just a stand up, easily likable, just amazing character that is a badass. Oh,
Yeah.
My
It's
bad.
okay. It's okay. I mean, we talked about a show like Game of Thrones for literally an hour and 50 minutes. I think we can drop a couple of those. We're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is another obvious pick in my eyes. I'm going Robb Stark. And then immediately after that, I'm going Arya Stark. So the Stark siblings, they're they're the two best Stark siblings. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but
Excluding the Targaryen, John.
yeah, exactly. I mean, John's not a Stark. He said it 100 times. Do you guys want to go 4 picks or 5?
We got 5. There's so many.
yeah.
You thinking 5? All right. Drew, back to you.
Wait, who'd you pick, Eli? I'm sorry.
Rob and Arya.
Okay.
Can't believe Arya's not going to be on my squad. That's so upsetting.
It's
I'll go
unfortunate.
with Daenerys.
Yeah.
I got there might be some chemistry issues with my team so far, but
Yeah. Yeah. You got to keep their head focused on the game, dude.
yeah. But I mean, again, I don't think it's pretty self-explanatory. She's despite what happened with her in season 8, she is an amazing character, and everyone loved her, and she's also very attractive.
Yeah, she's an absolute rocket ship. You got that right. Grant, you got 2 picks.
Okay. So for my first one, I will go with Joffrey.
Ooh.
I mean, as a villain, if you can get just everyone to hate you, then you did your job, and I feel like that's exactly what he did. Like from the first moment he was on the screen, Um, and then I'll just stay in the Lannister family. I'll go with Cersei.
Good one.
I didn't necessarily like her, but she was definitely behind the scenes of everything bad going on in the show. So
Yeah.
you got to give her credit for that.
Yeah. Technically speaking, you have 3 Lannisters on your squad.
Yeah.
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 So that's quite impressive that you did that.
So it's my turn.
Yep.
I'll steal a Lannister and I'll go Jamie.
Mm.
You dirty dog. That was going to be my pick.
Great character. He's obviously from the first episode, you're kind of set up to hate him
Yeah.
from attempting to murder a child because he was having sex with his sister. That's not a good start.
Yeah. Not a great way. He had a long road to come back from for the fans to love him.
And that's the thing is he still made questionable decisions, but you could tell that he had a heart and he wasn't just some crazy lunatic like some of his family members.
Yeah, and that's a hard category to be in for sure.
And him and Tyrion's bond was something that was very cool to see throughout the show as well.
Yeah. All right, so I've got 2. And I'm going to go a couple of back-to-back picks. And these guys are only on there for 1 season. I'm going Oberyn Martell and Ned Stark.
Good picks.
I mean, the fact that they resonated so well with audiences and had such little time speaks volumes to me. So that's who I'm going with. And Drew, it's going to go back to you.
All right, gonna pull out a bit of a wild card here. Gonna go Olenna Tyrell.
Ooh.
She is so. That's the thing is, I don't know. She was always just straightforward and blunt with everybody. Like I guess she kind of fits that stereotype that people give like older people, where they just don't have a filter and they just say what they're thinking.
Right.
But she's so smart, and she just didn't take crap from anybody, and it was so entertaining to have her just like tell people how it was in a show full of people that just didn't do that. She was just so straightforward. I don't know. I really liked her.
And you got to give her a ton of points for being the one who killed Joffrey Baratheon.
Correct.
So,
correct. Littlefinger was a part of it, but whatever.
yeah, let's not give him credit, okay? Grant, your final 2?
For my first one, I'm gonna go with the Hound. He was definitely one of my favorite characters. Clegane. I don't know, there's a lot that I want to pick for this last one. I'll go with another one of my favorite characters, Samwell Tarly.
Sam. Yeah.
Sam.
Loyal Sam. I mean, you don't like in fiction, you don't get many better best friends than Samwell Tarly. So, that's a good pick. Drew, your last pick.
Last pick. There's a few that I'm hemming and hawing about. But I don't have at least I guess I have a Targaryen and John, but I'm gonna go Ned Stark. Or has he already been picked?
I picked Ned Stark.
Did
And you already have Daenerys too.
Oh, she's a Stark? Well, I guess
Oh.
no, I'm saying John. I have John. He's Targaryen, and so is Daenerys.
Oh, okay. I thought you said like, oh, I don't have a Targaryen. I was like,
I was gonna
oh,
say, I guess he is a Targaryen because I was picking Ned. But
Okay.
I will go. I'll pick another Tyrell. I'll go Marjorie.
good one. Good, dude.
She's a great character.
In terms of
Great.
attractiveness, your team is clearing.
Yeah, I have a preference, I guess.
Yeah, like that's impressive. But all right, I've got last pick. I mean, I got to make this a good one. I mean, I could go with the fan favorites, some of the sweet teddy bears, like Podrick. I could go Hodor.
Hodor.
You got
Hodor.
Braun on the table too.
Bronze on the table, but I mean, for me, I gotta go Tywin Lannister because Tywin Lannister is just a tall version of Tyrion,
Marley.
and It is, and like I love when they have scenes together. He's so smart.
So did no one pick Bran?
No one picked Brandon. That's
Okay. All right, that's what I
I
thought.
think I
No one-
saw. we
No
saw
one's
that
gonna
one.
no one's gonna pick Bran.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure.
He's
Yeah.
not anymore.
I wasn't gonna pick him,
really.
but
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh
you
my
get
gosh.
2 for 1 for that pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely almost picked Hodor for my last one.
Yeah, I was thinking about taking Hodor.
Really wanted to. It was between him and Sam. Also, I don't think did anyone pick Sir Davos?
Davos is another one that I really like.
I
But
really like Davos.
It would be a shame if we made it through this entire episode and didn't talk about Tormund. He's an awesome
Yeah.
character, and I would have picked him too. But I don't know, he's just a you got to get to know him, I guess. But he's a
Yeah.
little bit blunt, but he's just a great character. I love. Tormund.
I mean, like when I was doing the summaries and everything, I kind of lumped Tormund in with like the wildlings all together
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, but like, I mean, he stands out. Literally, he's got this huge hair, this huge red beard, and everything. It's just like he's a loyal best friend to Jon, and he has the hots for Brienne of Tarth.
And that
No,
crush with Brienne of Tarth, that was really funny. That was
That
the
was-
highlight of the last season, to be honest. When
That was- yeah.
Jamie takes Brienne or follows her back to her room, and Tyrion just pours his wine into
Yeah,
Tormund's cup just to be like, "It's all right, man. You'll get him next time."
I mean, like, yeah, that was gold, dude.
Another character I don't think we've mentioned this entire time. Hot Pie.
Hot
Hot.
pie, yeah,
Had the hot for
Just kind of there.
Ari.
Yeah.
yeah. A hot pie was like the third wheel with Arya and Gendry. Like he was just there for a little bit, and then like he just hops off the train and just decides to be a baker. Like halfway through, it's just like so strange. But
And he was awful to start out, and then he learned how to be a really good cook eventually.
yeah, and it's just like when you look back at all the characters that they had to spend time on, they had to spend time on this guy. It's just like, okay, cool. Like it fleshes out the world, I guess. But ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the first episode of The Incompetent Critic presented by I'm No Genius. And we hope you enjoyed our Game of Thrones review. And we're going to post our draft of Game of Thrones characters on the net. So please vote on who has the best lineup. Grant, any final thoughts before we leave?
Great episode. Been looking forward to this for a while. If anyone listening out there has any other shows they want us to discuss, do reviews on, definitely let us know. We're open to suggestions. And yeah.
Yeah. We're also open to rejecting those suggestions. So don't be afraid to get your feet wet. Drew, final thoughts.
It's an amazing show. If you haven't seen it and you watch this, I don't know why you did that, because you just ruined the whole thing. But definitely watch it again if you haven't seen it, because it's worth watching again. It definitely is. You get more out of it the second time, almost as much as you do the first.
Yeah.
And I would love to come back and review more shows with you guys, especially Breaking Bad, if that happens.
Absolutely.
That's another
Yeah.
big one for me, so.
Mark your calendars. There will be a Breaking Bad episode. I guarantee that when this episode inevitably takes off, we will definitely do a Breaking Bad episode, because that's one of the greatest shows of all time. But in terms of Game of Thrones, I think, despite all of its faults, I think it's one of the greatest shows of all time. It could have been the greatest show ever, and I will give it a very respectable 9.6 out of 10 on
I'll
the
second that.
Eli scale.
Eli's scale has been proven to been the most foolproof scale in all of critics.
Thank you. Look, I do it because I love it. I don't do it for the money. But yeah. From everyone here at I'm No Genius, he's been Grant. He's been Drew. I've been Eli, and your watch has officially ended. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.